Good morning, everyone. We'll start out this Thursday morning by taking a look at the tornado count for the United States 2025. We're above 1,000 now. Last week we were just below 1,018 tornadoes counted, well above the trend for this time of year, which is right here, this black line. So we are always have been, actually, since the outbreaks in March, we have steadily been above the normal count throughout all of the spring, and no reason to think that we have stopped that here going into June here soon. I see opportunities for more tornadoes, certainly. Here's a look at all the tornado tracks. This is a wide view because you have to kind of encompass that one down there around Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, and a couple of these up in Minnesota. But you can clearly see where the tornado outbreaks have been. This is the more recent one, that long-tracked wide tornado in Kansas during the nighttime hours, and you can certainly see the devastating tornadoes. This was London, Kentucky, right here. This outbreak was in March, but there are other outbreaks on top of that too, and you can see I think that the red is EF4, so really high. We got to zoom in a little bit on some of these. So we've had, I don't have a tally of it, but it looks like about 5 EF4s that have occurred in the area here. Maybe 4. No, it's 5. And so it's been a crazy, crazy year, which has really never let up since mid-March. Like I said, I think we're going to be adding to that list here coming in June, which is a month that usually sees tornado frequency go down a little bit. It also shifts a little bit more to the north and west, and we'll see what develops with that. Here's the morning satellite loop now. We have two active weather systems. We have this area of showers and thunderstorms here, and we have another one that's dropping down across the plains with a little shortwave in the upper atmosphere. We'll take a look at the radar this morning, and that shows superimposed with the severe weather outlooks for today, that the two main areas are here and here for severe weather. I'll detail that in a minute, but the radar is showing where these thunderstorms are active. So certainly we're implying that this activity here will continue to grow as it moves toward that slight risk area in yellow. This area here, not real severe, but there is a little bit of an extension of the outlook out ahead of that. We'll take a look at that in more detail in a minute, including a slight tornado threat. Here's the simulated radar showing the advancement of both these weather systems here. This one picks up during the late afternoon, and a couple of supercells might form there in northeast Arkansas especially, and then down in Texas we have another group that's forecast to form. Another push of cooler, drier air kind of working its way in behind that weather system. Let's take a look at today's forecast for Thursday. I'll break this into two. So we have much of the southeast has just a weak risk of severe weather, but a somewhat enhanced. The green is actually called enhanced. No, the green is called marginal. I'm sorry. The names, the words that are attached to these have always been kind of a subject of confusion. Maybe I think that's why they went to the numbering system. Anyway, this is the traditional slight risk, 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And by the way, when we say severe weather, it's all modes. Could be large hail, could be damaging winds, or it could be tornadoes. But tornadoes has a separate outlook, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. And then we have the Texas branch of this, which is what we showed you on the simulated radar. So that's a forecast to develop, not on the radar yet. So that will be up and coming, I guess you could say. Here's the tornado risk. The highest is the 5% risk from Lubbock eastward, but the 2% risk covers much of west and central Texas. Then we have these kind of curious 2% areas, Gulf coastal areas from New Orleans east into the panhandle of Florida. Then there's this interesting little 2% risk area that encompasses northeast Arkansas, technically southern Missouri and southeastern Missouri too, but I think once it really gets going, the line of storms was doing this, so I think once we get into the core of that is when the real risk hits. Let's take a look at Nadocast, which actually uses very high it uses ensemble forecast to try to determine the risk for tornadoes. It also does hail and wind too if you go to their website. But it's showing a 3% tornado risk from West Plains down to around Memphis for today. So kind of curious. It's tying in, I think, on previous model data and taking a look at what probably one supercell is what's responsible for that. And I thought I saw a little bit of that on the actual radar forecast. The SIP's thunderstorm forecast is a kind of a broad brush. It does encompass many of these areas, puts a little bit more risk in much of Arkansas for today. Now, CSU, which is usually pretty good about talking about model comparisons, learning machine with various severe weather parameters, isn't really highlighting any tornado probabilities there, which I find curious. They are doing it in Georgia with the one outlook, with the hail reserve for West Texas, and the winds maybe gusting up pretty good in Georgia and Texas too. Let's go ahead to day 2, which is Friday. Pretty much the East Coast is where the activity will be. So Raleigh, Richmond, Charlotte, just barely getting into Atlanta, southern and central Georgia, and that 2 out of 5 risk for severe thunderstorms on Friday. And there's a tornado risk with that does include Greensboro, Raleigh, Columbia, South Carolina. Even Charlotte is in that 2% risk for Friday. If we look at the CSU model, it tries to put a little bit of tornado probability in that area there. But it's really kind of a weak response. It's more of a wind issue, I think, tomorrow across those areas of South Carolina and Georgia. Now, if we go ahead to Saturday, there's still some leftover upper-level system kind of working on the nation's capital there down to Richmond and in parts of North Carolina. And then we have this reoccurring area that still Texas has been in some sort of outlook, I think, probably for more than a week straight. Now, some part of Texas, and it's a big state, has been under the gun with some sort of risk for severe weather, I believe. And then on Saturday, again, the CSU model highlights those same areas. Sunday, we take a break. The Storm Prediction Center has outlined nothing, but you're starting to see changes in the jet stream now that indicate that the shear is going to be favorable in Montana, maybe a small chunk of the panhandle of Texas. Then when we get into Monday, the SPC did pull a trigger on some severe risks from the panhandle of Nebraska northeast to Fargo, including Pierce, South Dakota, those areas. And if we look at the CSU model, it does put a bullseye down around Oklahoma. Here's the official forecast. So there's some disagreement there looking at the model data as to what might happen. Now, interestingly, on Tuesday, we're back into Kansas. So from Lincoln southward to Wichita and Oklahoma City and Tulsa, there's a 15% chance of some severe weather within a 25-mile radius. On Tuesday, the CSU model is indicating about that. So here's what they did. The Storm Prediction Center, here's what CSU is indicating. A pretty good match. Maybe theirs is a little larger. And then SPC doesn't talk about Wednesday so far, but there is sort of this elongated area, according to CSU's machine learning model, that probably will need to be watched on Wednesday as a front stalls in that area, and upper-level winds are still pretty favorable. Here's the supercell forecast. This should encompass everything we just talked about, and it does. It shows the risk in the southeast, and it shows the increasing risk in the plains again for the 29th through June 4th. Then this expands June 5th through the 11th. Again, it's a response to upper-level winds, which we'll show you in a second here. But again, pretty high probabilities of supercells in a more traditionally April-May area, not so much June, but these areas up here are starting to increase, which is within what you would expect. And in fact, if you go into mid-June, that's exactly what happens. So let's take a look at some ensemble 500 millibar charts here. The first one is showing this trough on Friday, tomorrow, cutting across the southeast. That's why we have these severe thunderstorm risks right here. We have this cutoff low, which isn't going to do much at first, and then a big ridge of high pressure out west, so warm and dry for them at least. Then changes to Monday. This system is still lingering, but any of the energy that would produce severe weather is off shore, basically. And then we have this little short wave here. Notice we have some jet stream energy coming in behind that. Some jet stream energy up here is what is responsible for that day 4 outlook up there. And then on Tuesday, day 5, they put that right there. So again, I would maybe even extend that thread northward a little bit. And then we still have kind of a trophy pattern out to the west and still have some winds entering this system. So that's why I think much of next week we'll probably have some enhancements to the severe weather outlooks as we get a little bit closer to those days. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day 1 because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.